26th of February 25, and today John Swinney, the leader of the SNP, he made a speech, and it was about Scotland stopping the far right, and the idea was, and he called reform far right. So he's insulting like 17% of Scots who are voting for them at the moment in the YouGov poll, So yeah, he made a speech, and he said in April he's going to have some sort of big meeting with all the nice parties, if you want to call it that, Tory, Lib Dem, across the board, plus from Civic Society of Scotland, to stop this far right threat, or whatever they think of it. And he mentioned migration a few times and how migration's good, and he thinks that people voting against it are racist, and I think also he said that we need them for the economy and stuff. But to me, I'm wondering if we're heading for anarchy, So if we're heading for anarchy, our economy is not going to make much of a difference, or whatever, But anyway, yeah, he went on about this, and I think it's just shocking that how SNP are getting it so wrong, John Swinney. And also, this is probably because of in Germany the AfD get 20% yesterday in the election. And it'll be interesting to see the next poll from Germany, because in Holland the VVD got about 21% in the last election last year or something. Then a week later they got about 31% in a poll. Once the new leaders made clear they wasn't going to work with VVD, Geert Wilders' party, So they probably try to fire well out Reform in Scotland. Personally, I think Reform will become the biggest party in Scotland. Definitely with Scottish natives, because I'm not saying this as a conspiracy theory or anything, but Leicester at the moment, Leicester Council calls itself the first global majority city in the West, or maybe just Britain, but in the West maybe even. I think Westminster Council have made the same announcement. So, and to me, just looking at demographics, it's pretty obvious that we're going to be a global South majority, if you want to call it that, or global South plus East Europe. The natives are going to be a minority. So really the SNP are sort of the party to make natives a minority the faster than all the other parties. And they're called the Scottish National Party, So although they even want to get rid of the National Party, the national thing, I think I've heard Nicola Sturgeon say that. So let's just see what people are saying. He's creating divisions with today's press conference. He's introducing two new bogeymen in extreme right and radical right. Blah blah. Yeah, apparently he's the first mainstream British politician leader to call Reform the far right, I think, if Scottish natives, if you're concerned, about migration, because he's calling it far right, I don't know what far right really means, apart from, we've got ideas, but to me the only thing that matters is mass migration, natives becoming a minority basically to the global South and East Europe. So it's third and second world, would that be? Not a conspiracy theory, just demographics. I mean, whether somebody's trying to manufacture it that way, I'm not even bothered. It's just happening, Yeah, so yeah, it's going on about fascists and stuff. Yeah, so really, I think Scottish natives have got you. If you're worried about mass migration, and he mentioned that migration quite a few times and said how good it is for Scotland, etc. He made a speech 2 weeks ago saying we need it for the economy and that, etc. To me, why don't they add women's rights and LGBTQ plus questions to the citizenship test? Citizenship test is just a history test. I mean, it doesn't even have any function, in my opinion. Um, it's like a pub quiz, basically. Why don't they ask them questions on their views on LGBTQ plus or women's rights? You know, I think that's a pretty simple one. I mean, Peter Tatchell and Yvette Cooper and Nicola Sturgeon could all get together and come up with the questions. You know, so yeah. Don't know what people are talking about here. Yeah. So he did mention mass migrations. I can't remember if he mentioned anything else that's meant to be quote far right. You know, is that the only thing that makes you far right now? You know, because usually they all agree on other things like being right in economics and being anti-green, and but I don't agree with all that. You know, so really, I think it's all about mass migration. I think that's why people are voting reform in the first place. So, and it really, once the Scottish National Party, once the marchers, the voters and the marchers realise what's happening to Scotland, they're going to be really angry at John Swinney and Nicola Sturgeon. What will probably happen is that we'll get statues of Nicola Sturgeon in 5 or 10 years' time, and then in 50 years' time, the SNP marchers will be knocking them down, you know. Oh yeah, he's talked about things like trans rights and that. I mean, I don't really. It's not something that concerns me at the moment because I think the only thing that should concern everybody is mass migration, basically, becoming natives becoming a minority and becoming a global south and second world majority, as Leicester Council calls itself at the moment. Oh, it calls itself the global majority. Uh, but I think you're not talking about many Americans like Trump, you know, like that, in that global majority. So this is people talking for ages ago. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's all I've got to say about that really. So I think if you're concerned about migration or whatever, you need to abandon SNP Labour. They're all in a race to make natives a minority faster than the other parties, faster than the Tories. So you need to vote reform as a. They're terrible on this issue themselves. Last year it would have been 400,000 newcomers under the reforms policy. Newcomers probably from the global south really. I think it's about 90% are coming from the global south. Uh, yeah, if you're worried, you need to start voting reform now as an Overton window shift because, like John Swinney said, he's called them the far right. If he's calling them that, okay, vote for him with that on migration. Yeah, you should be voting in one issue basically. Uh, yeah, and I think John Swinney, you know, when he got re-elected again, I was thinking, why did we not like him in the first time? You know, he seems sort of stable, but see him having him back. I don't really follow him that much, but on migration he's 180 degrees wrong. Like, but on and his nature and the other things, he's a bit brisk and that. You know, I really can't be bothered with him. I remember why we didn't vote for him the last time around. You know, I don't think he would win an election at the moment. Uh, so really need to find someone else. But let's say the SNP marchers should be voting reform at the moment because, in my opinion, your country's going to be very, very different, and you might not be able to relate to it in a way that you like. You know, it's okay to say it's going to be a utopia, to predict it's going to be a utopia. You know, that won't have any effect on your life. But if you're concerned about it, you know, then you need to start voting reform now. Really. Okay, that's it.